And now, the fifth and final round of Combat Sports Live.
Thank you, Thomas McHugh. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Combat Sports Live. We are in the championship round number 5. Round number 5 is brought to you by J.D. Byrider, located on Candler's Mountain Road. J.D. Byrider is America's largest used car franchise. Good cars for people who need credit. Check them out today at www.gojdb.com or just head over there and talk to any of the people there. Good people can help you out at J.D. Byrider. But Charles, we had a chance to talk with Marcus Davis. It was very good of him to call us during this very crucial time. Touched on a lot of things. I think that it was clear from our conversation that he is definitely feeling the pressure. This is probably the most important fight of his career. He said it a couple times that he definitely wants to keep his job, as he calls it, fighting in the UFC. It was good to hear some of his perspectives, too, on the insides of the sport, things like weight cutting, what it takes to cut weight, mentioning how, not lifting a whole lot, and he had shredded down and is moving a lot quicker. What do you think about, and speaking generally about weight cutting? I know some guys that cut 18 to 25 pounds for a fight. What do you think about that?
Weight cutting is something that you can say that it's kind of the black eye of the sport.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand what a fighter goes through. First of all, I really want to thank Marcus Davis for giving us the opportunity in the morning of the fight because, he's rehydrating. He's putting pounds back on.
Yeah.
Because weight cutting is something that...
And thankfully for him, it's not a lot of weight. I think he's only cut, 5 or 6 pounds, according to what he said.
It just shows his discipline. I think it shows how serious he is about this fight, because if he's walking around, at 76, 77, and he's fighting at 170, it shows his commitment to being somewhere near where I'm going to fight at, where you do have a lot of guys who, whether it's to avoid somebody they don't feel like they can beat or don't want to challenge, or they cut a lot of weight. Cutting 18, 22, 25 pounds a couple of weeks prior, sizing down, it can be very dangerous. And guys, there's tricks to the trade. The common UFC fan doesn't get to see and benefit from what it takes, a guy to make 155 who walks around at 185 on any given day. Weight cut, it's something that I'd like to see your sanctioning bodies limit what a guy can drop. If you're going to fight at 55, I don't think you should be able to drop from 85.
And I've seen guys that have suffered dropping massive amounts of weight. It can be devastating to your health. It can kill your liver, kill your kidneys.
It kills you on fight night. You lose that stamina. You lose, that cardio you've worked so hard. You see guys gassed in the second round. These guys have put the training in not to be gassed in the second round, but they've lost 25 pounds.
Right.
It's really tough. But, the main thing I took from Marcus's interview is that I think he's really focused. He knows where he's at. Probably isn't what he would dream up the position he's in right now. But sometimes when you face that adversity, it really shows what you're made of. And he seems really ready to come out tonight and put on a show, knock somebody out, get paid to do it, and continue his career. And I'm surely wishing him the best.
I've talked to Marcus off the record quite a bit. He's one of the most humble guys that you'll ever want to meet, one of the most down-to-earth guys that you ever want to meet. And I've met tons of guys that are in the sport at the top of the sport. Out of everyone that I've met, he's kind of like the guy to talk about whatever. And surprisingly enough, mixed martial arts is not his only interest. He loves to talk about baseball and other things, talk about his kids.
He's an athlete.
But he is definitely serious about his career in the UFC. He has no illusions. When he transferred from professional boxing, he's talked about it many times. Financially, he never made a huge amount of money or barely made a living at all in professional boxing. And the UFC and getting on The Ultimate Fighter changed his life. Gave him a career on the national stage. 37 years of age. He's opened 2 gyms that are hugely successful in Bangor, Maine, where he lives with his family. And you got to love a success story like that. It's almost like a Rocky story. His road's been very unique, transitioning from pro boxing to mixed martial arts.
And it shows young fighters with dreams and hopes that you put in the work, put in the sweat, put in the pain, and it does pay off.
Absolutely. And if you look at his experience in the sport, came into the house, The Ultimate Fighter Season 2, without a lick of ground game, hardly at all, was submitted and watched some of that old footage. Like I took a look at this morning. I kind of laughed. It's like, that was 5 years ago. I couldn't believe it. Really thought that his time in mixed martial arts was over, but at 32, 33 years of age, at that time, he went back and learned the ground. Worked with some great guys like George Gurgel and Patrick Cote and Mark Delagrati, Sitya Tong up in Boston. Tweaked his boxing to more of a Muay Thai style and developed what he calls an anti-jits game, which is basically, if you try to submit me, I'm going to punch you in the face. We laugh about that. but it's been effective for him.
He's still learning at 37. He's gone in and he's really hard to tweak and retool things. And, I think we'll see a little bit different Marcus Davis for this fight.
And let me ask you a question, because a lot of people have been remarking about the fact that Marcus has gone gray on the sides of his hair. His hair's gone a little gray. He's 37 years of age. Let's talk about age for a second. Do you think that Marcus has another 5 years in the sport? Do you think that his career is winding up or winding down? It's definitely hard to tell nowadays when you've got guys like Randy Couture in their late 40s, still in contention, still fighting.
The difference with Randy is Randy continued to win big fights. Chuck Liddell, until here recently, was winning big fights at an elevated age. I think that if Marcus can recapture, some of his past glory this evening, I think that he turns back, time a little bit, and maybe he buys himself another 12, 18, 24 months of opportunity. Everybody knows you're only as good as your next fight. And you put together a win, or you string together a couple 2 to 3 wins, you're going to forget about these 2 consecutive losses he has, and he kind of, starts again, on that egg timer. So tonight's a big night for Marcus. I think a win will do him real good. I think a loss, I think we would maybe have to stop talking about him fighting maybe in the UFC into his 40s or 42 or 45, like the Coutures and Liddell. But we'll see what happens. Hey, my saying, it's a fight. It's a fight tonight. We're going to see what's going to happen.
And speculating a little bit beyond this fight, assuming that he does win, he's openly stated that he wants a rematch with Dan Hardy. Let's say that he does make it past Jonathan Goulet. What do you think is the likelihood? Now that Dan Hardy lost to George St. Pierre, he's going to have to probably spend the next couple of years building himself up.
Dan Hardy lost to Marcus Davis. Marcus didn't get the decision. You and I both feel the same way on that. So I think it would be a great rematch. I think it would be almost in comparison to our main event tonight, with Shogun and Machida, in that it's a decision that a lot of people feel like went the wrong way, but you got to fight your way back to it because it wasn't an immediate rematch. And Hardy got smashed by GSP on strategy and in the fight. I think that you'll find Davis winning tonight. If he'll get the fight that he wants. He's had a long enough career to where he'll have some choice and some say in who he gets. I think he wants that fight. I agree with you. I don't think he likes him. I don't know about you. I'd love to see him beat him up again. So.
And maybe get the W
the W.
We both think that he deserves. And speaking of great fighters, ladies and gentlemen, Lynchburg's first professional mixed martial artist is making his pro debut at probably the largest, most spectacular regional show in Virginia, the UWC Ultimate Warrior Challenge at the Patriot Center in Fairfax, May 22nd. Caleb McAllister will be in the studio next week talking about his upcoming debut at that show, his training, what he's got going on. We'll be sitting down and kind of picking his brain and what's going through his mind as an amateur making the transition to professional mixed martial arts. So we'll be looking forward to that. Also, ladies and gentlemen, please visit us on Facebook. Just search Combat Sports Live, and you can see all of our upcoming shows and events and who we'll be having on in the upcoming weeks. And don't forget, tonight is Major League Boxing's next event with Scott Cujo Sigmund is fighting tonight at Jefferson Forest High School. If you're in the area, definitely check that out and support our local professional boxers. Certainly going to be a great show. I'll be ringside with Charles Crumpler with the Combat Sports Live crew. We'll be hanging out there and checking out the event. Come up and say hi if you get a chance. Just want to thank Jamie Ridgway for coming into the studio today and talking about the UFC event we got going on tonight. And that's going to do it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Visit us next week, same time, same channel from 11 to noon here on WBRG with Combat Sports Live.